It was amazing last night. I thought Jim Pearson's gig was just incredible. I mean, the joy of the whole evening was fantastic, and just to be part of it's very wonderful. I suppose this chatting now could be called, if you're looking for a song title for a moment in time, Attention to Detail. If you go round the exhibition at the Art Centre, which is a collage of people who didn't know that they'd be together, rather like the bits and pieces in a skip don't know that they're going to be falling together, or in an antique shop going to be falling together, or indeed children for the first day in school will be with people that they've never met before at random. So making sense of life is what we do all the time. So when a deliberately random sort of thing happens, like sort of I invite 10 people who invite 20 people to become a kind of musical and painterly collage, one doesn't expect to find a real star of the show. But I think in Jim's writing and his book, God's provided that. I find the same thing true of Brian Schofield's searchings in paint, with some pieces of clue from other artists like Paul Klee. But yeah, attention to detail. Do we really listen or see what other people are trying to say, or even reaching in their mind to express? I don't think we do. I think we're too self-centered, but it's only a box. We can get out of it. We can punch holes in it. We can change it. We can do things differently so that we invite change. I find Jim's writings exceptional. He can take anything that, like a fragment that goes unnoticed, film footage sitting in a skip, and write a song about it, emotionally tell us how he doesn't sure that he's got any right to use it. Told us the same thing about film footage you'd found for Shadows, the background to one of his songs. We're trying to make sense by finding pieces that sit together, materials that sort of come together, that we can jigsaw back into some kind of a whole. Anyway, I do believe there's a God, and I do believe that God is in the synaptic connections that our minds make. Otherwise, things wouldn't make any sense at all, ever. We wouldn't be able to recognize, or our cognition would never get or understand or feel it, whatever it is. It is God. I was fascinated by the loose collage at times of the film footage playing behind Jim, the brilliant idea of using a foot pedal one might use for switching on and off a loop track, and trying to time, rather like live filmmaking, which is what it was, his songs to be the performance that would bring to life the backdrop. In fact, just occurred to me the only person I've ever seen do that was Ken Dodd. Ken Dodd took one of those wooden trolleys, bogies, or whatever you would call them. It's made from a soapbox with pram wheels and a rope, and you can sort of steer it. And they were making them when I was a kid. There's bicycles, and there was these sometimes tied to the backs of bicycles. It's that kind of nostalgic collage that we're talking about. A child making sense and sort of what can I do with simple materials, things that I've found. Maybe flowers that are picked up, rather like Boo. She sees faces because she's got the concept of fairy, which was there in William Morris's writings, but also in the Rorschach ink blot that psychologists use to say, can you see anything in this? And I see pictures of faces in shadows that are cast by cars. But anyway, back to the performance, and back to what Jim achieved, what Brian achieved, what seen Marina achieve in the past. We need to leave gaps, and we need to leave space for people, and we need to then see what they're doing and look at the pieces that they've made. Each of Jim's writings, from 50-something, are extraordinary drawings with words. I draw in other people's books, and that's a collage, a rapport between something somebody did and something I'm doing in the live moment. We're all just trying to make sense, seeking to make sense to each other anyway. I hope this ramble has made some kind of sense, but what I'm really saying is, when somebody's trying to put a series of paintings in front of you, if you can, stop. Listen, watch it, and don't jump too quickly to the conclusion that this isn't what I do. Be glad of that. That's a window. When you don't quite get something at first, it's a brilliant window. So I was very, very pleased with the way things turned out last night. And I hope you were, the people that were there, who really got it, really got Jim, because eventually you think, oh gosh, this man's actually saying something. He's seeking something. He's trying to make sense of things. He's trying to make sense of sort of going backwards and forwards to work, and what bits of work are right, and how can he live as a family man, as a son, and all the different positions that life asks us to relate from. I think it's very brilliant. But I love every single one of the 30 or so people that have come together as a collage. Well, he only invited 10, and of those 10 I haven't known you very, very long, and I find you very, very great. Dennis Spicer's paintings are amazing. Yes, and I think Amy Kane's collagraphs, I've seen that it's the oldest artist relationship I've got in there, I think. I find their collagraphs very exciting and beautiful, and yeah, do go and see the exhibition currently on till the end of the month at the Art Centre. And please, please come to the Tennessee Waltz gig, because I've only known these couple of people for a short period of time, and had the pleasure of sort of placing one man's song as a mural in a place in Liverpool with another friend who invited me to do a mural based on an old cafe in the town that I was inspired to paint on, because another person who I met at first, Graham Davis here, had painted on those walls. So we're just passing the ball on, really. Yeah. Keep on trying to understand rather than to be understood. That's what St. Francis's gig was, and also Norman Vincent Peale. He wrote a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And the only insight really that you need from that book is be interested in other people. Because if you're only ever looking in the mirror, you'll be staring back at yourself all the time. I think that you can break out of there. There's a great song by Jimi Hendrix. I used to live in a room full of mirrors. All I could see was me. But I took my spirit and I smashed those mirrors. Can't remember what the next line is. Maybe you can tell me. And I love that Leonard Cohen one too, because you see, I'm trying through other people to find can openers to see better. A bit like putting glasses on. Yeah, Leonard Cohen said, forget your perfect offering. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. And Sue Jeffers, another life coach, loves lady life coaches. If a thing's worth doing, it's worth doing badly. I think when we watch other people trying to do things, we might realise that nobody's getting it wrong. Happy New Year, everyone. It's going well so far. Go to church. You might hear a person with huge enthusiasm painting on a bass guitar by sliding his fingers up and down through the scales. who knew? Who knew when I took a trip down to Brighton to see my daughter studying at the university there that I'd buy a bass that would bring me so much painterly joy. I didn't. Oh, and I loved... I'm very critical of poor harmonica playing. I find Carl Parry's very, very good. And so when Jim made a joke, because he picks up on insight, he really does listen to the things you say. And it was almost a really kind of iconoclastic cheeky beer, really. Said, there's some bad harmonica playing. Well done, Jim. Scored a real goal there. I am empathetic towards other harmonica players, but don't want to stand on the stage and try and scribble and make sense with mine while somebody else is scribbling and not really bothering to make any kind of sense at all. There's the critic in me, still exists. I try and believe that I'm a man without preference, but no, I'm equal too of needing to see, like St. Paul did on the Damascus Road. The scales will fall from my eyes if I keep finding artists like you. And the 30 in that room. Just a great exhibition. Shame the other artists haven't seen it. May I imply a criticism? They really ought to go and have a look at the other people's work. Otherwise they'll only know what they supplied. And that would be sad, because nothing will have happened. Their work will have been posted to eyes that never reflected it back to them in a world that was bigger. But God bless you anyway. Joy in art and music. Better than Jim, really, although Jim always stood for me like Jesus in me, and going back to Dale Carnegie, who was a life coach but also a priest. There was a little boy on a plane beside him once who was really fed up. He was saying he'd tried everything. And Dale Carnegie looked back and he said, I think there's one thing you haven't tried. Faith.